Chris McGovern, he's chairman of the Campaign for Real Education, to talk about, well, whether or not we should actually copy Australia and bring in a ban for all under 16s using social media. That's something that's being looked at by the Science and Technology Secretary, Peter Carr. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Look, I was very strict with my daughter when she was a young teen about not using any social media until age 13. Even after that, everything has to be a private account. You reserve the right to look at it if necessary, if we felt there was any concern. And it doesn't seem to be a big part of her life, as far as I can tell. I mean, a lot of parents might think that, and then something awful happens. We've had parents grieving for their child who's lost their lives, who's taken their life after horrible bullying or horrible incidents, horrible, being algorithms talking to them about, suicide or anorexia and the like. Is there a time? Is there a case now for a ban on social media for under 16s?
I think it's a no-brainer. I think Anthony Albanese in Australia has finally done something about it and given a lead to the rest of the world. One of the points he made is that he wants to support parents. The vast majority of parents are very concerned about young people and their use of the digital technology, the smartphones, and he's going to look after the parents, and so they can then say to the child, I'm sorry, you can't have a smartphone because the government doesn't allow it. And at the moment in the UK, 98% of 12-year-olds have got smartphones. Yeah. So it's a child protection issue. 3 cheers for Australia. Let's follow them. The
thing is, as much as I can understand that, and I do think, again, smartphone, isn't necessary. Why does a kid need a smartphone at that age? You could argue, although a lot of us wanted their kids to have a phone that they could use to text or call in an emergency once they were having a bit more, freedom and independence when they went to secondary school. Again, although you and I managed perfectly well without one all those years when we were out and about doing God knows what, and our parents never had a clue where we were. Maybe that's why we want our kids to have phones. But my concern about this is this really the solution? Is this the problem? Because there'll still be parents who give their kids phones, but they'll still break the law. But also whether this should be more of a parenting issue, and also the concern about adults, because once you have to prove that you're over 16 to be allowed to have social media or be on a smartphone at all, are you not then in a situation where people who are older, adults, are going to have to prove their identity too? And then you're into very intrusive behaviour in terms of the state and social media companies into people's personal lives.
It's a difficult pathway, to tread when one talks about banning social media. But because it's difficult, doesn't mean to say we should back off. Some parents, of course, have no interest in their children using smartphones. Yeah. They don't supervise. But most do. We talked about Australia, but actually we could probably take our lead from the bosses of the software companies in Silicon Valley. Yeah. What they do is they send their children increasingly to what are called Waldorf schools, which ban smartphones. Yeah. They themselves will tell you, no, it's a drug, it's dangerous, it's addictive.
They design it that way.
We ban alcohol under 18s, we ban smoking. And so, yes, there'll be some young people who will get around the law, of course they will, but then that they do with alcohol. Yeah. It is a child protection issue. People are dying because of this. It's causing misery. But, Julia, don't forget, we are the top of Europe for one particular educational league table, and that is unhappiness. The Children's Society came out with a report a few months ago, and once again, we're at the top. And our children are not only slightly unhappier, they're miles unhappier than anywhere else.
Is that down to social media? Because social media and smartphones are available across the rest of the world as well. Is that not actually just down to that actually a lot of it is adult use of social media? There have been some experiments where they've taken the mobile phones and the tech away from both the adults and the children, some sort of TV docs, and actually the parents are really, really struggling. The kids have been absolutely thrilled. Go, my parents are talking to me. We're playing Monopoly. We're playing cards. We're actually having a conversation. Even watching telly. In my day, there was a big thing, isn't telly awful? But at least we were all sitting around the same one television in the house, all talking to each other in the breaks when we were watching the same programme. Now everyone's on a Netflix or Amazon screen in a different room and with headphones in, and no one's talking to each other. Isn't the issue not what kids are doing on social media, it's what they're not doing while they're on social media? They're not playing sport, they're not talking face-to-face with their friends, they're not talking to their families, they're not interacting with the real world.
That's absolutely the case. It's one point Albanese in Australia made. We need to get the kids out on the playing fields, in the theatres, doing things. and how much happier they are. We have a high level of mental health problems in this country, and we're comparatively affluent. They don't have any problems in Bangladesh or in much of Africa, where they're much poorer. Why don't they? I mean, I've been in Indian schools, seeing children sitting on the floor and have very few facilities, but they are incredibly happy. And they're happy because they're not distracted by the social media world. And they don't have the mobile phone. So we've got to get the balance right here. But look, I'm going to sound incredibly crotchety, grumpy old man now, but I would ban mobile phones for under 16-year-olds as a child protection.
Not just social media, but under 16.
No, and it will solve all the problems. And when the children start to moan about that, I would say, no, you can't have it. Sometimes, Julia, we have to say no, because we know it's in their interests, the children's interests. So I would ban them.
Do you know what? I'm quite in favour of that. That might be easier than the social media thing. Really good to talk to you, Chris McGovern. Thank you very much. We do, Benedict, suppose we have a lot of very unhappy children, very unhappy families. No one's talking to each other. Yeah. Teachers aren't in control. Parents aren't in control. No one wants to say no to these kids. And actually, these kids are encouraged by school and parents and the world and social media in particular to be terribly introspective, constantly think and worry and talk about themselves. I mean, mobile phones are kind of part of the problem.
They are. It might interest you to know that there's you already know this, there is a government review into the national curriculum at the moment, and one of the things that's being recommended to it today is that the curriculum is too middle class and that there should be fewer things like school trips to museums, because that's not relevant to working class kids, and what they need to do is find out more about the miners' strike and the Jarrow Crusade and things like that.
Or probably street dance.
Yeah, the dumbing down of the curriculum goes in tandem with the rise of these.
But the patronisation of poorer children, they couldn't possibly understand Shakespeare. It's irrelevant to them.
Exactly. The damage continues apace. And he's going to carry... We've got another 4 or 5 years of these people, and they are ideologically motivated. I think we should
spend more time at school telling children they're born in the wrong body.
Yeah, I think so. Starting with
and that if they're white, they're horribly racist and bad people, and if they're black, that they are victims. I think that would actually be a very good use of our teachers' time. That seems to be what they do all day, as far as I can
tell. There you are. You're the Labour Education Secretary.
Yeah.
Just on
Hurrah!
That's all
my
the
new
experience
job.
you need.
Wouldn't that be fun? Put me in charge. I'd have Chris McGovern in charge, to be fair. I love that man.